Today, I'm going on a sartorial journey with designer, entrepreneur, and podcaster Oliver Proudlock. Ollie was educated at Eton College and then studied fine art at Newcastle University. He starred in 10 seasons of Made in Chelsea and cleverly leveraged his own image and love of fashion and style to found Serge DeNimes in 2011. Starting with seasonal collections of clothing and accessories before swivelling to take advantage of a gap in the market for high-quality fashion jewellery for men, Serge DeNimes is now a worldwide jewellery brand, well known for its fashion-forward designs and premium quality materials. So hello and welcome, Ollie.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're a busy man by the looks of social media.
I'm trying to keep at it. And thank you for pronouncing Serge DeNimes so perfectly.
Well, it's the French influence in the family.
Because a lot of people say Serge DeNimes, Serge DeNimes, Serge. Yeah, you nailed it.
So where did that name come from?
So it's to do with the origin of denim. So denim was originally coined, the way the cotton is woven was coined Serge.
I'm glad I wore denim today.
Nailed it. So it was originally called Serge and then DeNimes, and now we know it as denim.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So what are you most excited about at the moment?
I think, to be honest, I'm most excited about being a dad.
Yeah.
I think for me, that is obviously just number one. It's a crazy journey. Our baby girl's 10 months now. So we're still very early days, but I'm loving every minute.
And was being a dad what inspired your podcast?
Absolutely, yeah. So Ems and I, we did a podcast called Help, I'm a Parent. And obviously it's in the title. It's very much about our journey being first-time parents. But being very honest, we're not trying to teach anyone how to be the perfect parent, but we just wanted to share our journey, our highs and lows, and what it's like.
Couples therapy by the sounds of things.
Pretty much couples therapy, exactly. That's what it kind of turned into.
I mean, obviously, Made in Chelsea has been an important part of your life so far. Looking back, what made you sign up for it?
I mean, it feels like such a long time ago now. It's crazy that you say that 10 seasons. That's a long time. But it was a while ago now. So I guess I probably left about 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time, I think, I was a little bit lost in terms of my direction. I had Serge, which I just set up in June 2011. And then it was in September of that year that I got asked to do the show. And all my friends were doing it at the time. And I was kind of toing and throwing. I wasn't entirely sure if it was a good idea. It was early stages of the show. It's reality TV. So immediately I was thinking, how am I going to be portrayed? It could be really negative. But then in the end, I thought you regret the things you don't do in life more than the things you do. So I thought to myself, if I just give it a go, it may turn out really well. And if it doesn't matter. I can move on. I can do something else. But at least then I know that I gave it a shot.
Was it all reality, or was any of it scripted?
So they called it obviously a scripted reality. So, at the core of it was obviously real. It was our relationships, the things that were going on within our group of friends, but it was slightly heightened for entertainment. It was directed and pushed in certain directions, but everyone, said the way they felt. There were no scripts or anything like that. But there was direction. So, that kind of, they knew what they kind of wanted, and sometimes they got it, sometimes they didn't, but it was built upon a core of truth.
So no take upon take upon take of the same scene?
There were occasionally a few takes, and I think maybe I think the more you did that show, the more comfortable you got in front of camera, and I feel like maybe certain characters or individuals would play up to the camera, so would kind of maybe give what they wanted, but who knows? It was hard to tell. It did get a little grey at times. You were unsure of what was real and what wasn't. Yeah.
Is the cast assisted with styling at all? Because we're obviously here talking about style.
No style assistance. So everyone could wear what they wanted, unless there were certain events where there might be a theme. But yeah, that for me that's what I love the most, right? Being able to kind of portray my style, and my style was very different from everyone else on the show.
I have to ask you, do you ever look back on it and think, why did I wear that?
I mean, I probably did wear some really niche things. I'm trying to think
Any
if there was any
particular howlers?
standouts. Because I do remember when I first went on the show, I always used to wear a cross earring, a dangly cross earring, which was inspired by Pat Cash, actually, who I love, rather than Elton John. I do love Elton John, but Pat Cash is my boy. And I remember when I first went on, and my name was Proudlock, and I had a cross earring, and I remember that was very unusual for people. And people actually thought my real name was Proudlock, when obviously it's not. That's my surname. So I think the combination of Proudlock and the cross earring was a bit of a curveball for people. Not many many people in Chelsea, I think, wore a cross earring at the time. It was unusual.
So we talked a little bit earlier about Serge DeNimes, the name.
Mm-hmm.
What was the inspiration behind creating your brand?
So I've always been super creative. I studied fine art, as you said there. So I actually always thought I was going to be an artist. I always wanted to paint. And then when I left Newcastle and was kind of thinking what I wanted to do, to be an artist is really, really hard. And it's a very kind of lonely existence. You're in your studio. You can get very much caught in your thoughts. You can go through moments where you have complete creative block. And I like to be around people. For me, being creative is about community. So when I was thinking about what direction I wanted to go in, I knew I wanted to be creative, but I also knew that I wanted to be around people. And fashion had always been a passion for me. I was doing it every day. It felt very organic, authentic. And it was another dream of mine to have my own brand one day. And then I remember after Newcastle, I went to live with my mum in the countryside. And our house down there was crazy. The whole house is denim. So my bedroom, blue denim wallpaper, denim headboard, the bathroom's denim, the whole house is denim.
How cool.
Yeah, so my mum, she used to have a company called Denim in Style. So she used to sell denim fabric to upholster furniture, and she was just obsessed with denim. Some of our earliest photos when we were a kid, when I was a kid, I was dressed in quadruple denim. So for me, denim, when I think of fashion, denim is always up there. So I started looking into the origin of denim, because I knew that when I had my own brand, it had to have a link to denim, and eventually I wanted to start working with the material. So I looked into the origin of denim, and that's where I came across Serge DeNimes, and that's how it all started. So for me, I was like, this is the perfect name, and the perfect connection. My mom was obviously over the moon, and that's how it started.
And then you swiveled at some point into jewellery for men.
Yeah. I think so. When I started the brand, I wanted to start with one product, and I started with T-shirts. It was at the time when graphic T-shirts were super popular. These big, loud prints on tees. But I found it was really hard to find the perfect combination of a beautiful T-shirt with a beautiful print. Occasionally you would have this amazing print, but the quality of the T-shirt was really bad, and vice versa. So I wanted to create the perfect fitting feel T-shirts with these beautiful, really soft to touch prints. And that's where my mum's book, Rio Carnival, inspired me. And I did these loud prints on tees, and the collection was Rio Carnival. And that's how it sort of started. And then the clothing, I sort of progressed, and I teamed up with this amazing factory in Portugal. And it felt great, but at the time I remember there were a lot of other independent brands, a lot of very well-established brands who were kind of creating similar things. And I think when you set up your brand, whatever brand it is, whether it's in fashion or F&B or whatever, you've got to have some sort of niche, some sort of unique selling point.
Yeah.
And I feel like at that point in time, there wasn't anything really in particular. And I think it was at that point that I started creating a few pieces of jewelry. And this is when not many guys wore jewelry. I mean, which is crazy to think now.
True.
Because you go outside now, every guy's wearing jewelry, It used to be just one ring. Now guys feel comfortable with layers. They can wear pearls. It's a super exciting market.
I was going to ask you about the pearls for men, because I find that a very interesting angle.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the inspiration behind that.
I mean, I think it's funny. You see, when it comes to fashion now, music has such a big influence. And I think when you look at the pearl movement, you know, the sort of the grandma's pearls, as it were, I think it's a lot of these musicians that kind of pioneered it. And then through that, all these young kids started wearing the pearls. You know, you look at guys like A$AP Rocky, Harry Styles. I think once these people start wearing these things, it then leads other people, one, to be inspired, but also to feel comfortable in themselves to also do it. And I know for me, like, style, for me, the most important thing, whatever you wear, is comfort. If you feel comfortable in something, then that leads to confidence. And you can see when someone is confident in what they wear. And at the core of that is comfort. And I think, you know, now you look at fashion, and especially, you know, you look at the boundaries now for, you know, it's so gender fluid as well, which is super exciting.
It is super exciting.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, I remember when I was growing up, and everyone used to think, oh, wow, you're pretty out there in what you wear. You know, people always used to thought, wow, it's a little bit niche, a little bit on the edge. And now I look at my style in comparison to what other people are doing. It's pretty laid back. Do you know what I mean? It's so exciting now, I think, because it's endless.
Yeah.
And I think there are so many people now who aren't afraid to push the boundaries, which I think makes the fashion world right now just super exciting.
Yeah, the likes of Harry Styles is just inspirational.
100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see I'm wearing a little bit of pearls today.
You are.
Yes.
You are. What's your end goal for the brand?
That's a good question. So this June, Serge will turn 12 years old, which is pretty crazy. I think, you know, for me, obviously, Bonnie is my baby girl, my first child. But I do see Serge as my baby also, you know, my first, in a sense. And it's really tough to think. I don't really like to think too much of like an end goal or like a final point. But I think for me, the main thing is just to continue what we're doing and continue the growth and keep pushing the boundaries. And for me, the end goal, I guess, is to be the #1 men's jewelry brand. And not even just men. I mean, our jewelry is very much unisex. Obviously, we target more the male side, but I just want us to create products and create stories and create a community that is so strong and pushes boundaries and goes outside of the UK globally, which I feel we're already on that sort of, we're on that treadmill, but it's just continuing it.
Can you tell me about the sourcing of your pearls?
Yes. So it's so funny, actually. So when I think about, so often when I have quite a few young people who come in and start working at Serge, and a lot of them are out of fashion college and they want to get a bit of experience and they're looking to set up their own brands. And they often ask about production. And I think looking back on my journey, production, whether it's clothing or jewelry, has been the hardest part.
It is the biggest mountain.
Do you know what I mean?
It's the most complex.
Especially when you're starting up and your minimums are small, you don't have a huge amount of cash, but you really want to create good quality products. And that for me has been the hardest part. And I think when it came to the jewelry, one of the points for us that's super important is that we're selling good quality jewelry but an affordable price.
Yeah.
So obviously all our jewelry is sterling silver, all gets hallmarked here at the Goldsmith Assay Office. And when we started, everything was produced here in the UK in the Birmingham Jewelry Quarter. Obviously, as things grew, we had to move outside of that.
I mean, today we're here to talk about style. How did you decide what you were going to wear today?
Today?
Yeah, for this interview.
I wanted to be comfortable. So I'm wearing my favourite Levi's 501s. Always got to wear a bit of denim, which you've done perfectly. Obviously, I knew I'd be talking about denim today, so I had to wear a little bit of denim. Always wearing a pair of trainers. These are my new Golden Goose, which I love. And then jewelry is just, it's a go-to. I'm probably wearing a little bit more today than I usually would because I knew I was seeing you. And then linen tee, white linen tee, always.
By who?
This is by Sandro. And then this jacket is actually, I haven't worn this jacket I don't think I've worn it for like 5 years. But it's one of those jackets that I've had for maybe 15 years, and I love it. And it's lightweight, and it's handmade in England. And it's just one of those jackets that I occasionally wear for a special occasion.
Oh, well, I'm flattered.
This is a very special
Ollie,
occasion.
flattered.
Yes.
What's your earliest sartorial memory? What was the first time you realised the impact of clothes?
So I think my first memory was probably around 5 or 6. My mum, she was a knitwear designer at the time, and she did this amazing book, Nursery Knitting.
Which you have here today.
I bought because it's a very important book, and I wanted you to see it so you could visualize. And these were all her designs, and in the book is me and all my friends and family. So I remember this moment really well. I remember all the different outfits. I remember doing these crazy photos with my friends and family, the people that meant the most to me. So I think for me, this is like, it really kind of sets me up to where I am now when I spoke about community as well. Because for me, fashion is about bringing people together. It's about enjoyment with your closest. And that was the first moment.
I mean, this is so ahead of the Bowden game.
This is, yeah.
This was a decade before.
I know. Mum was always ahead of the game.
She clearly was, but I love this little
Isn't it crazy?
you with all your blonde hair and this
I know.
ferile sweater.
I know.
Are you still attracted to beautiful knits?
I still have some of my mum's knits, some of her original knits, which is
the
pretty
baby
insane.
ones?
The little baby ones. And actually some of my favorite pieces are some of my Ralph Lauren knitwear that I have. And my mum actually ended up doing knitwear for Ralph Lauren. So when I was a kid living in London, Ralph Lauren used to come to our house and see my mum.
Ralph himself?
Ralph himself, yeah.
How
which
cool.
is pretty wild, because then I, after university, worked at Ralph Lauren on Bond Street, just upstairs doing the sample sale. So I was just helping sort and go through everything. But I've always been obsessed with Ralph Lauren. And I remember when I was working there, Mum was like, why don't you call Ralph and tell him you're there? I'm like, my Ralph is probably not in town, and he's most definitely not going to come say hi to me at the sample sale.
Hi, Ralph. I'm doing your
sample
Ralph,
sale. I don't know if you remember my crazy Swedish mum, but she used to do some knitwear for you. Yeah, I'm upstairs. Do you want to come say hey? So yeah, Ralph Lauren is massive for me, and knitwear. I just love knitwear.
I mean, he loves all things British. And I mean, on that note, you went to probably one of the most famous British schools, Eton, where you wore a tailcoat.
Yeah.
Any hangover from that?
I actually still have those tails, I think, somewhere. Yeah, that was weird. It was very different for me as well, going to Eton, having grown up in the countryside at quite a small school, to then go to Eton that has, maybe 1,300 students. It was like quite a big shock for me. And obviously the whole outfit set up.
And being in quite a strict uniform.
And being in that strict uniform, and there's a lot of traditions there, a lot of stuff that you've got to get your head around quite quickly. But looking back on it, I absolutely loved it. The facilities, the teaching, and for me, the bit I loved the most was the art school there. The art department was insane. And there was a teacher there called Ian Burke, who was the head of the art department. And he was a massive inspiration for me. And that's kind of what led me into my artistic direction and led me to St. Martin's and then on to Newcastle University.
It's funny, isn't it? I clearly remember my history of art and art teacher, and she was so inspirational in my journey.
For sure. Because I think at that point in our lives, we're passionate about things, but we're still like learning and understanding and really trying to figure out what it is that we want to do. So when you do have people like that who really help you express yourself
Yeah.
and feel comfortable and good about doing it
Yeah.
and help direct you, that it's pivotal, right?
It's really pivotal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Would you say that being stylish is really important to you?
I think going back to what I said earlier, style, and there are so many different definitions of style, but it's so individual. And for me, style is a way in which that I can express myself, and also a way in which I can boost the way I feel, and also, just have that sense of comfort. And for me, that is super important, and that leads then in turn to confidence.
Yeah. Would you say that you've got a style icon?
Yes, I've got loads of style icons.
Any in particular?
If I had to pick one, I think my one style icon would probably be Pharrell Williams. Yeah, Pharrell
Interesting.
Williams.
And what do you think of his appointment to Vuitton?
I know, I've been speaking to a lot of people about it. I mean, I think he is incredible. I really do.
I agree, by the way.
And I do think he will do an amazing job, but I know people maybe weren't expecting it. And look, at the end of the day, I think he will do a great job. So for me, I think,
And he has huge influence, doesn't
he has huge influence. And, obviously people first recognize Pharrell through his music, but actually his fashion has just been going for so many years, and he's built up a crazy CV and worked with some of the biggest brands in the world. And like you say, he is, super influential, especially from the fashion side of things. So I think he'll do a great job.
Talking about influence, you're obviously an influencer, whether you like it or not, with a cracking 676,000 followers just on Instagram alone. I would imagine that you get gifted a lot of the time. I would imagine that your home is a revolving door of goodies. How does that process work? Does stuff just appear on your doorstep, or do you know what's coming?
We do have a rule whereby if we receive something, if we take in one thing, we have to get rid of two. So that's the one thing that we try and stand by.
If you're getting rid of two and only taking in one.
I know in theory it should be getting a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's not. Someone is not applying the rule.
Do you ever need to go shopping?
Yes. Yeah, we do, for sure. Things for the house and for Bonnie. I do find now I get kind of, it's something about when they're so small, these clothes, they look so cute.
They are delicious.
And I know I shouldn't get it, but I have to get it.
Yeah.
Especially when she grows out of it. But we're trying to be really good with that.
Are you hanging on to a little archive of...
100%.
Great.
Yes.
And just talk to me for a moment about, you bought this amazing book, Carnival in Rio, with you. Tell me about it.
So this book, my mum and her first husband, Douglas Villiers, they did in the 70s. So this was Carnival in Rio 1978. So they went to Carnival in Rio between, I think it was 74 and 78. That's my mum and Douglas.
When it was very different to how it is now. It was
so different. It was out on the streets. It was very, even more liberal than it is now. Obviously now it's all confined by the samba drones. But they just took all these incredible photos and then just created this beautiful book. And I remember when I was a kid growing up, I was obsessed with this book. And it led me to go to Rio Carnival 3 times and inspired me for my first collection of T-shirts. So the first collection were images from this book.
From the book?
Yeah. So this was one of the images. Yeah, that was one of the images that we printed on the T-shirts.
Oh, wow.
And then I took those T-shirts and went back to Rio Carnival, however many years later, 40 years later, and took photos of all the locals on the beach wearing the T-shirts.
Oh, cool.
So it was like a moment in time, moving forward and them wearing these pivotal images from years gone by.
Brilliant.
But, just look how insane all these images are.
It's interesting to see it back then. Super insane.
Yeah. Look at all this.
Wow.
It's just so cool.
God, they must have had a blast.
Oh my God, I know. So yeah, big inspiration for me when it came to Serge.
Wow.
So as you can tell, my mum is a big inspiration for me when it comes to my creative side.
Definitely.
Yeah, she's probably my style icon. I said Pharrell Williams, it's probably my mum.
Yeah. Coming back to you, if someone were to describe your style in 3 words, how would your style DNA, what would you want those 3 words to be?
Niche. It's my favorite word as well. I love the word niche.
Is it the word of the moment?
I just love the word niche. And my style is probably niche. Versatile. Comfortable. Might not be comfortable for everyone, but for me, it's comfortable.
But that's the most important thing, isn't it?
That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Do you plan your wardrobe? I'm always fascinated as to whether men think as much about their outfits as women do.
It's funny, I can actually sort of plan it in my head. So for instance, when I'm coming to see you today, last night, sort of before going to bed, I can kind of visualize, I kind of know what I have and where it all is, and I kind of just piece it together in my head. And as opposed to like in the morning, I'm not sort of like pulling and being like, oh, does that go with that and that? I'll just piece it together in my head and then just pull it.
Do you ever start, when planning your wardrobe or planning your look, yes, do you start with one piece?
Yeah, usually.
How did you know I was going to say that?
I just, yeah. No, usually I do start it with one piece. Usually I have like a hero piece, right?
And what would that tend to be? Is it a new pair of shoes or sneakers?
It depends the time of the year. So if it's in the winter, my hero piece is always going to be a jacket. And then I'll kind of build the look around my jacket. In the summer, shoes are actually, trainers like are a big thing for me. So usually it builds around the trainers, which is interesting. So the winter it starts top, summer starts below.
Now I know that at times on social media you take yourself, a picture of yourself.
Yeah, the fit pic.
A fit pic. And then you ask the question, yay or nay.
Yay or nay. Yeah.
Are you really interested in the answer?
No, I am actually. No, I actually am.
No,
I am. Yes, I am interested. And it's funny, weirdly, I actually prefer it. I don't know why. This is probably a little bit strange, but when people don't like the fit.
And then do you find yourself having a conversation with them about it, or is it a conversation in your mind as to why they wouldn't like it?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think I've never wanted, in terms of my style anyway, I've never really wanted to just sort of like blend in. So I kind of like it. Or maybe when it's a mix, that's when I like it the most, when it's a 50-50. If half the people like it, some don't, then I know I've got a good fit. If everyone loves that look, it's not a good look.
Why? Because it's just too mainstream?
Yeah, for me anyway. I like to have something that is maybe in the mid, you know?
A bit gritty.
A bit gritty, a little bit on the edge, pushing the boundaries a little bit. Don't want to be too boring. Yeah.
Let's talk about travel. I mean, you're probably quite a recognized face right now. Do you pay particular attention what your airport look is going to be? No. I always wear a tracksuit usually when I travel. But I don't overthink my look. I'm not like, as long as obviously as long as I'm comfortable. Usually on the darker side of things now with Bonnie, just in case there's an accident of some sort. Because I used to always wear like a white tracksuit or something like that. I did actually recently wear a white tracksuit when Emma and I went away, our first trip, just the two of us, because I knew that I would be safe. A celebratory
It felt good wearing
moment.
that. Oh, the white tracksuit had never felt so good.
They'll come back.
Yeah. So no, not really. I just, now when we travel, it's just so much thought going into packing and making sure that we get all the stuff that Bonnie needs. So, Ems and I were just like, whatever.
And so are you a good packer or a bad packer for yourself, or is all the focus on Bonnie?
So there's just a lot more stuff that we've got to think about with Bon. And obviously we don't want to forget anything. Emma and I have different packing techniques when it comes to our personal stuff. Emma is hilarious when it comes to packing. She takes way too much stuff, and she won't hate me for this because she would agree. she also, she thinks it's an amazing technique where she'll have all her clothes on the hangers and
Can
then
I
she'll
just
go
tell
like
you-
this and put them in the bag.
That is an amazing technique.
So
I will say chapeau to
do
your
you
wife.
do that too?
I do that, and it's brilliant.
So I think it is perfect for when you get out the other side and you can just hang all your stuff. But I don't actually think it's the best way in terms of getting the most in the bag.
Well,
Do you, or maybe not? Have you tried both?
I
So you swear by that?
I swear by it, with super skinny hangers, then a
Okay.
big piece of plastic on the floor, and then you pile one look after the next,
She
and
does
then
do
you
that.
roll it, and then everything comes out the other end pretty much immaculate.
Okay, wow.
So, Ems,
Okay.
you're with me.
Ems, you heard it. Yeah, Amanda knows. But she, it's the shoes for her. She likes, she takes quite a few shoes. So it's funny when we do travel, we have this thing of seeing who has the heavier bag, and I'm yet to lose that one.
Does she have views on what you wear?
I mean, she likes to. I actually, Emma has incredible style. And to be fair, if I'm going to ask anyone if this is an okay vibe, I'll ask her, and she's always honest. But a lot of the time I'll still wear it.
I was going to say, do you then act on her advice, or do you just act on your gut?
I usually act on my gut, but no, there have definitely been times where I've gone with her, and she's pretty much always right. So I should probably just always follow her, what she says.
But as someone who's had your own clothing brand, do you now feel that there are any gaps in the market, in the menswear market?
It's really interesting because, we're coming up to 12 years now, and I actually really want to start doing clothing again a bit.
Brave man.
I know. And it is tough to try and find something that hasn't been done, or do something that is being done but do it differently. For us, I think the jewelry is always going to be number one, but we just want to start bringing in some accessories and clothing to accentuate the jewelry and accompany it. Because I think we do a lot of these photo shoots where we shoot these creators and we do them every week. And a lot of the time we're having to pull clothes, we're asking them to style, etc. So for us, it just makes a lot more sense to be able to style with our own clothes. So we're not going to be going crazy and pushing the boundaries, but it is tough. But I think, again, going back to what we said earlier, it's a really exciting space because the boundaries at the moment are just so wide. And who knows where it's going to go.
But surely isn't the point of your creatives campaign to very much have the style of the creative rather than applying your style to them? Very
good point. Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, it's like, these Serge meets that we do, which we do weekly, they go back to when I started Serge. I wanted it to be more than just about the products. I wanted it to be about a community. And these Serge meets are opportunities for creatives to come through. We do a shoot and they get to talk about the projects that they're doing. So it comes alongside a Q&A. So I do understand what you mean. But at the same time, it's tricky sometimes when they come and the looks have, a big polo on the front or something like that, or like whatever it might be when they're heavily branded. So for us, it would make more sense if we just had maybe one sweat or something that is
Serge,
but it would be subtle. It would just be the top left, nothing too crazy. But we've come into issues before just with, so what we often do now is we'll bring a few pieces alongside just in case, and they can, they can wear it if they feel it. But usually we get it right.
Swinging round to guilty secrets. What's the most expensive item of clothing?
Most expensive item
in your wardrobe?
And this is just clothing, right? This doesn't include sort of accessories.
I'd say
just clothing.
Just the most expensive item of clothing in your wardrobe.
I'm trying to think because I don't go too crazy on, I think actually to this day it's probably still the most expensive jacket I have. And this is when we were filming Made in Chelsea, and we were filming in Harvey Nichols in the men's lab downstairs. And I remember I was called up super last minute, and I think I'd just been in the office. The look was not strong. I wasn't feeling it. And I arrived at filming, and I was like, I said to the stylist there, I was like, you know, I don't think I had a jacket. I was like, dude, do you have like maybe I will, you know, I'm looking to buy a new piece anyway. Do you have a jacket that I can maybe wear? And I remember he pulled out this crazy orange, really like reflective bomber jacket. And I didn't know, at the time, I didn't know where it was from or what the price was, but I put it on and I wore it for the whole scene. And I was like, oh my God, this jacket is unreal. And I kept saying to him, dude, I'm going to buy this jacket. This is phenomenal. I love it. Really felt me, you know, the confidence went up. I felt phenomenal, felt like Superman. And then at the end, I was like, yeah, I'd love to buy this jacket. Thank you so much. And it was from a brand called Dries Van Noten. Do you know the brand?
Yep.
And like I say, I don't go too crazy on, you know, there are certain things that I will spend a lot of money on, but clothes, I don't usually go above a certain mark unless maybe it's a gift for Emma or something. And it was, I think it was 895 quid, which for me at the time, that was like a lot of cash. But I was so heavily invested, I had to buy it. And I remember I left, I was like, oh my God, he's got me there.
Yeah,
but I still have the jacket.
I was going to say,
I haven't actually worn, I think I've maybe worn it once or twice since, because it is such a statement piece.
But Dries's pieces, that's quite a saying, isn't it? Dries's pieces
that is,
are works of art.
Dries, not, I call it Dries. They are. It's a beautiful jacket.
Yeah.
And I will hold on to it, and I will probably wear it a couple more times, special occasions.
That is a real guilty secret.
Yeah.
But panic buying is lethal,
I
isn't
panicked.
it? Yeah.
I was in a corner, he had me, and there was no way out.
Joshua Kane designed your wedding suit.
Yeah.
What was it about his work that took you to him?
So I've known Joshua since the beginning of his journey. And, you know, we both have our own brands. We both now become very close friends. And I think it must have been about 8 years ago that I first met him, and someone put us in contact. And I went to his apartment at the time. So he didn't have a studio. He just maybe had 7 or 8 suits on a rail in his apartment. And I remember ever since that day, I just fell in love with his suits and the cut of his suits and the materials and everything he stood by. He is an incredible guy. And so now whenever you see me out and about, whenever I'm dressed up, I'm always wearing Joshua. So when it came to my wedding day, obviously one of the biggest days of my life, I knew that I had to wear JK.
Do you still wear that suit?
I haven't worn that suit since the day, but I obviously still have it.
Because it was your wedding suit? Is it a bit like a wedding dress?
Yeah, for sure. And I remember I got some shoes for that day too, which I haven't actually worn since either. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, some Gucci loafers.
All beautifully packed away.
I mean, it's probably not beautifully packed away, no. I just hope some moths aren't getting at it.
So a slight flaw in the
God.
OCD
And now when I get home, I'm definitely going to check that it's all right. But yeah, you know, he's become a very close mate of mine, and I just love what he does. And I've seen his journey just like he's seen mine, and seen our two brands grow. So yeah, I just love what he does.
What's your approach to sustainable fashion? Yeah.
I'm trying more and more, actually. Both Emma and I, kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about that whole 1 in, 2 out. We're trying to be as sustainable as we can. A lot of the stuff that we buy is vintage now, and we try to invest in pieces that we see longevity, as opposed to this whole fast fashion, you know, buying things and getting rid. So the majority of my wardrobe now are pieces that I've had for years. And pieces that, you know, I continue to wear and pull out.
And when you say vintage, is it from a vintage sort of source, or do you do charity shops at all?
When I was younger, I used to do loads of charity shops. It's funny enough, that's what I used to buy jeans from charity shops. And
aren't they the best?
They were the best.
They're fully worn.
But then what I used to do as well is I used to paint them and rip them and customize them, and then I used to sell them on. That's how I used to make a little bit of cash when I was at school. So no, I go to a lot of like vintage shopping, and And also now we're just trying to be more aware
That's
in
our
terms...
friendly local helicopter, so don't worry about
We
it.
have loads of those when we're doing ours with planes. It's the choppers.
The choppers. They're in and out the whole time, so let's continue.
So yeah, also we're just trying to kind of be aware of the materials and things that brands are using. And I do think we're, still not a perfect space, but it's a time where brands have to take note and start thinking about where they're sourcing all their materials. And
it is a pretty pivotal time, isn't it?
Massively so.
Yeah. What would you say is the oldest piece in your wardrobe?
Oldest piece? I think it would probably... I used to raid my mum and my dad's wardrobe a lot when I was younger. And there's a few pieces in there. There's one which is my mum's Levi's shearling jacket that's so ripped and distressed.
Oh, wonderful.
And I remember that was her favorite jacket, and I remember I took that one. She probably wants that one back. That must be from like the 70s. And then I also have one of my dad's jackets that there's it's a leather double-breasted black jacket that is beautiful, and again super worn. And I think that's again probably from the 70s. Those are probably my two oldest pieces.
Cool. With lovely stories attached, no doubt.
100%.
Let's swing on to some quick-fire questions.
Yeah.
What fashion advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Don't be afraid of what people say. Just keep doing you.
What fashion trend would you most like to see make a comeback?
I would say knitwear, but I feel like that's already coming back.
Fair Isle knitwear by the looks of this book.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
What fashion or beauty trend would you consign to Room 101?
I don't really hate on anything, to be honest, but I've got to come up with something.
No, that's.
I'm kind of all for everything. Even if it's something that I couldn't see myself rocking or I'm not into it, I still appreciate that people are doing it.
That is a very inclusive answer, Ollie.
That is just me being honest, though. But like,
I love that.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet it.
Your last impulse buy?
Definitely for Bonnie. I bought her this mini Rodini, I think it is the brand, mini Rodini. This little tracksuit, and I was waiting to go see my osteopath, and I was early. I was like, I shouldn't go in there. Went in, and I couldn't help it.
Views on tattoos?
Love them.
She says, looking down at your arms. The grooming treatment that you couldn't give up?
My skin SkinCeuticals, which got inspired by my wife. She works a lot with those guys. So the 3 stages of my skin SkinCeuticals. It's Floritin, hydrating B5, SPF 50.
Interesting.
If I only pick one, it's the SPF 50. We spoke earlier about sun damage. Amanda and I have both done it. Damn it. If only we could rewind the time.
Apart from I did it a couple of decades before you did. But hey-ho.
The SPF 50, key.
High end or high street?
High end.
Minimalism or maximalism?
Max.
Crocs, cute or puke?
Cute. Love Crocs. Got loads.
Sports luxe or rock and roll?
It's just so dependent on my mood.
So
rock and roll.
Both?
I'm going rock. I'll do a little bit of both if I can.
Glam or grunge?
Glam.
Savile Row or jeans?
Again, down to mood. I love both, but if I had to pick one, I'm going to go jeans.
Trend or style?
Style.
Colour or monochrome?
Colour.
Pattern or plain?
Pattern.
Experimental or uniform?
Experimental.
Cashmere or cotton?
I love a bit of schmear.
Hoarder or editor?
Editor.
Charity shop or resale?
Charity shop.
Boxers or briefs?
Boxers.
Budgie smugglers or board shorts?
Board shorts.
Beanie or baseball cap?
Baseball cap.
And finally, Ollie, one last question. At the end of the day, what do you or don't you wear in bed?
I just wear boxers in bed.
Ollie Proudlock, what fun to chat with you on all things style. Thank you for your time today. great fun to meet in person.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And thank you for wearing double denim with this glorious silver chain. You look badass.
You're incredibly kind.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And that was Fabian.
The Labrador puppy.
But look at this. So this is me.
Oh
This
my
is
God.
My cousin Antonia.
But this is genuinely
I said to
sort
Mum.
of early Ralph.
Yeah. And like I said, she went on and worked with Ralph. I don't know how many years, but I mean, do you know what I mean? Like these are just.
I love a bit of Fair Isle because the crafting in it is, oh my God. Did your mother take these pictures?
I actually don't know. That's a good question.
Because she was a photographer.
She was a photographer, yeah.
And
But this is before her photography days. But look how cool is that? That's me and my friend Fabian.
oh,
Isn't that just dope? Like, I want to rock that now.
and that
Isn't that
delicious.
Isn't it delicious?
Look at that Edwards waistcoat.
Right? And then look at this one here. The cricket jumper.
Tonia's sweater.
Yeah, Antonia. There's one though, but it's so cool where we're painting. Where is it?
This is so.
That's my mum there.
Oh, just gorgeous. But it's so ahead of its time too.
Yeah, this was so cool. So that's me, my sister, and my buddy Hal.
But do you know what? That's a proper denim knit, isn't it?
So cool.
Delicious.
But yeah, I remember this. I remember these days. It was like we shot it over maybe 3 or 4 days.
Which one are you?
This is me here.
Oh my God! Look at those blonde
Some
curls.
serious locks. This is the best. So this is me and Hal. And this photo, my mum actually blew up and was in my bedroom in Tetbury. That's like 6 foot by sort of 4 foot. But, I mean, we look like 2 old men.
You do still have these photos in your house, don't you?
Yeah.
You do. You do look like two old
men just having a good old
next
laugh.
to a Lagonda.
Isn't it insane?
I mean, just hanging out.
just vibing.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant. Absolutely
Yeah, it's
brilliant.
very cool.